Hello, change class.
Hey, you said that too early.
No, I didn't.
You did.
Okay. Well, today in this vlog, we're going to talk about pedagogy of the oppressed.
I'm Joshua.
And I'm Tisa. But, so, the author of this book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, brought out these ideas of who the oppressors were and how can we go about eliminating this system of oppression. And he brought out some things like the different ways we learn, the teacher and student approach, um, and you can talk about the banking approach.
Yeah. So I have a question. Who is the oppressed? Who is the oppressed? Um,
The,
yeah, the oppressed. Excuse me.
it's minorities.
I would say I'm oppressed. I guess I would be the oppressed because I'm a black African American male who's in the lower class, primarily middle class. Um, what else? I mean, I go to a predominantly white school, so like I'm oppressed in that way as well. There are many ways we could be oppressed, and I'm not saying only black people could be oppressed, but like oppression exists, and it's still a living thing, and we need to find a way to stop it.
Hmm. And so in the book, he talks about this idea called the banking approach, um, to oppression and how we learn. He talks about there being like a teacher-student relationship, and the teacher is the one that deposits all this information into the student, and the student is this person who like doesn't know anything, which is basically how minorities and people who are oppressed function. Like we have people putting things into us and telling us what to think and how to think, as if we don't have that opportunity, and we're not free enough to do it ourselves. Um,
Yeah. In this book, he also describes the dialogue between people who are oppressed and people who aren't oppressed, and he shows the life experiences, like because people who are oppressed talk differently to people who aren't. Let's say people who aren't
right.
oppressed. Yeah. So there's like different like interconnections between that. Um, he also talks about the connection between liberation and inclusive language, which is almost like the dialogue between people.
And then like the second, like he makes this alternative, and says we have to really be open to this change, but talks about critical thinking being the avenue towards freedom for oppressed people. And so he's like proposing this idea in learning called problem posing, where you get the students to think for themselves and how to solve the solutions alongside the teacher, instead of the teacher coming up with the solutions. They come up with them together, and it just talks about how the I guess freedom will come from people who are oppressed, rather than the oppressors making this idea of like, okay, we'll just let them be free. But it says like they have to have this like revolutionary person from the oppressed system to come up and start making these changes.
Um, he also uses class as a factor in understanding oppressed forms. So there will be like oppressed forms of oppression. So there will be like cruel and or unjust treatment, and those are two of like the ways to understand like oppression. So like you could be okay. I would like consider cruel and unjust treatment the same, but you can be cruel in doing something, and you can also treat somebody in an unjustice way, like injustice treatment. Um, I think that we as oppressed people, we don't really see the difference. We just see it as one. There's no separation between cruel and unjust treatment. It's all just one thing. And yeah.
And he also talks about this thing called these four principal things that contribute to oppression, which is like cultural invasion, conquest, and division and manipulation.
Manipulation and cultural like invasion. Um,
And then he talks about the four ways those systems can be opposed, and it's like organization, liberation, cultural synthesis, and unity.
hmm, yeah. So there you have it. The oppressed. And Tisa.
Um, and so I guess to sum it all up, if we had to change the system, we would have to just work towards unity and organizing things within our oppressed minority groups to bring about this change, and really push for critical thinking in whatever we do together in our organization, how we want to learn. We want to create something where it's an equal learning process, not just one person who has all this information and all this knowledge, but rather taking it like we all have this valuable knowledge to give.
Yeah. There you have it.
See
Bye.
ya.